What we are witnessing right now, it's an extraordinary, historic moment in China. These protests are breaking out across the country, from here in the capital in Beijing to elite college campuses to other major metropolises and even far-flung cities. This is an unprecedented level of public dissent since Xi Jinping took power a decade ago. What we're seeing is people past their breaking point. It's years of pent-up anger. This is 3 years of draconian lockdowns that have cost people's lives, their livelihoods. But the trigger for this wave of protests was a deadly fire in Xinjiang that killed at least 10 people. Videos of the scene indicated that COVID restrictions prevented victims from getting help. But these protesters, not just angry about COVID lockdowns, they're also targeting their anger towards the supreme leader himself. This protest scene in particular is extraordinary. Let's just take a listen to it again. Paula, that is people in Shanghai calling Xi Jinping to step down over and over again. Those chants go on for quite some time. They're also calling for the Communist Party to step down. I can't overstate just how shocking it is to hear this crowd in Shanghai, China's wealthiest and most cosmopolitan city, and that chanting happening in a central upscale part of the city to be directly calling out for Xi Jinping to resign. I mean, this is virtually unheard of. And in China, it is extremely dangerous to publicly criticize the party, especially Xi himself. You risk prison time or even worse. Some protesters also chanted they don't want COVID tests, they don't want dictatorship, they want freedom and democracy. Witnesses told CNN as well that rows of police officers were making arrests, forcefully pushing protesters into police cars. But the next day on Sunday, hundreds of Shanghai residents returned to continue protesting despite heavy police presence and roadblocks. Videos also showed some protesters violently dragged away, and now that area has been mostly cordoned off. But what we're seeing is this tipping point across the country after years of suffering and deaths during lockdowns because people struggle to get food, necessities, and emergency care in lockdown. Paula.
A remarkable scene indeed. Of course, we don't realistically expect Xi Jinping to step down, but is there any sign that the government might back down on some of these restrictions?
Well, the government is in a difficult place right now because COVID cases continue to surge, continue to rise. And the party's line has been that they need to keep zero COVID because it's protecting the vulnerable elderly population where the vaccination rates are still lagging behind. But after that fire in Xinjiang, after there were protests in Xinjiang and across the country, the government did say it was going to start to relax some of the COVID lockdowns there. But at the same time, you have state media publishing headlines that are basically doubling down on zero COVID, saying it is the best policy for China. And I just want to reiterate that fire in Xinjiang, Paula, it really triggered people's worst nightmares here, because it's really the idea that any one of us here in the country could have been stuck in a lockdown building while a fire is raging, unable to get out or to get help.